Hello, welcome back to my next video on Vedic astrology. In this video, I'm going to talk to you about the effects of the sun. If the sun happens to be in the second house in your Bhava chart or the Chalit chart, it does not mean that you can do away completely with the Rashi chart, because the Rashi chart is actually the one and only real chart. Everything else is derived from the Rashi chart. And the second point is that from the Rashi chart, you will be able to find out if the sun is exalted or debilitated, or if it is in its friend's house or enemy's house, if a particular planet is with sun, or if the sun is being aspected by other planets. All this can only be known from the Rashi chart and not the Bhava chart. So the Bhava chart is only for finding the position of the planet or the graha from the ascendant. In this video, I'll be mostly concentrating on what sage Bhrigu said, which has been recorded in Bhrigu Sutram. And you know that in the good old days, there was no recordings in the form of textbooks or CDs or all those things. It was carried from Guru to the Sishya, and it's called the Guru Parampara, and the information as it came down must have got a little corrupted. So we can expect some errors in the original textbooks also, and adding to that, the translator also may have made a few mistakes. Even that is possible. So let's look at other classical textbooks also. We'll be in a position to find out what most people are saying and take everyone's view and then make your own view on what the sun in the second house is capable of doing. There are 12 possibilities. I've given here one possibility for the sun to be in the second house. If you move the ascendant here and then the sun is here, even this is the second house sun. Same way, if you move the ascendant to the next sign and the sun brought back to the second house, you get, even in this condition, the sun is in the second house. So there are 12 different possibilities for the sun to be in the second house. So even if you read a book in which you come to know of the effects of the sun in the second house, it will surely not be accurate unless the text deals with what happens if the sun is exalted or in the house of Venus or in the house of Mercury and so on. To get a good idea, let's look at what sage Bhrigu says. The first word he mentions is mukh rogi. The diseases of the mouth is possible if the person has the sun in the second house. On the negative side, the sun represents the acidic substances, the fire, the heat, and the second house is the house of the face and all the organs in the face, and especially the second house is related to the food, and since the food gets into a body through the mouth, I think this has been associated with the mouth. Notorious diseases of the mouth, and topping the list is of course the cancer and possibilities of mouth ulcers, fungal infections of the mouth, and so many other health problems connected to the mouth is possible. If you want to use common sense along with astrology, then you will have to find out what the person is doing. For example, if the person is chewing tobacco, then most probably the person is going to get cancer. But if he is not having any such habits, the other kind of diseases like mouth ulcers, for example, then Bhrigu says in the 25th year, he will incur the wrath of the government and as a consequence will suffer loss of wealth. Throughout Bhrigu Sutra, you find the mention of a particular year, but this comes as a contradiction to the Dashabhakti scheme, which means it overrides everything. In my experience, I have actually not found this working all the time. Sometimes it happens, but when it happens, it is extraordinary trouble. Without the Dashabhukti, how do we simply attribute that the 25th year the person will incur the wrath of the government? But the sun also represents the government, and the second house is the house of income, and there are no clues on how the 25th year has been arrived. So let's move on. This will not happen if the sun is in Aries or in Leo. So let's see the possibilities. So if the ascendant is here and the sun is here, this is the only possibility. And after being exalted, it should also retain the second position in the Bhava chart. Only then this condition works. So he says if the sun is in Aries, and another possibility is, he says, if the sun is in Leo. So this is the other possibility. If this is true, then he says this will not happen. So it's obvious that the contradictions in astrology seems to be only based on these kind of combinations. So if an author wrote only keeping in mind that the sun is in a good status, he would have written very nice things about the sun being in the second house. Another astrologer who had in mind the sun in a malefic house or debilitated wrote the negative side of the sun being in the second house. If the sun is associated with the malefic, the native will get disease of the eye, because the second house is also called the Netrasthana. For this, let's keep the worst possibility. For example, the sun in the second, now here sun is debilitated. Let's add the arch rival of the sun, Saturn, the most malefic as far as he is concerned, along with him in the second house. If this happens, then the person will surely get eye diseases. He will have little knowledge. Bhrigu also says rogi, he uses the word rogi meaning ill health. So Saturn in the second is likely to produce bad health. It's obvious, because if it is capable of causing the problems in the mouth, good health is always related to good digestion, and the digestion starts from the mouth. If the sun is aspected by benefics, the native will be protected from the above evil effects, and just the opposite, he says, will become wealthy. This is the most complicated part of astrology. So let's remove Saturn and go for another kind of, another situation, like for example this one, and then let's introduce a Shubha Graha like Jupiter, which means the sun is now related to the benefic. And this is not only possible if Jupiter is here, maybe Jupiter is here also, which means Jupiter directly looks at the sun, or if Jupiter is here, Jupiter's fifth house aspect falls on the sun, or if Jupiter is here, the ninth house aspect falls on the sun. Then the next possibility is if the sun is with Mercury, the native will stammer in speech. Now this is a very interesting point, because normally people in astrology know that if the sun and Mercury come together, it causes a yoga called Buddha Aditya Yoga or Nipuna Yoga, which makes a person very intelligent. But let me tell you that this is quite common, because the Graha Mercury will always be close to the sun, and either it will be here or over the sign where the sun is, or it might be the next house. It will never go beyond 28 degrees away from the sun. So this is the maximum distance. So Nipuna Yoga is quite common. That means 1/3 of the population must have stammering problem. But that's not true, because you need to find out how close Mercury is. The closest, for example, rapt conjunction, then there surely be problems with the speech. We also know that this fault goes under the name combustion or Astanga dosha, in which case Mercury is afflicted, and Mercury is the Karaka planet, the indicative planet for speech. Now he gives us the other condition. If the Lord of the second house is posited in his sign of exaltation, the native will talk succinctly and clearly, will have knowledge of ancient scriptures, be learned, and enjoy good sight. So now let's remove Mercury and put it back, and take Jupiter in this case, because he is the Lord of the second house, and we know that his exaltation sign is here. That means in Bhrigu Sutra, or as usual in Vedic astrology, after studying the particular house, you need to find out what the Lord of that house is doing in the chart. And if this is true, that if the second Lord is exalted and is dignified in the chart, maybe you can use the theories of Shadbala, Vimshopakabala, meaning any type of the strength of planets. If this particular planet, the Lord of the second, in this case it is Jupiter, is strong, then there is all kinds of good results, Raja Yoga, name, fame, and wealth. Now let's go on to the opinion of other authors, great authors. Brihat Jataka by Varahamira. He says the person will be immensely rich. Now, when you read a book like this, it's a one-liner, just a short line. Brihat Jataka itself is a very small book. It's like condensed. You can say in computer language, it's compressed. And if it is being said immensely rich, then the sun must be dignified, elevated, strong, and devoid of any malefic aspects. But then he also says, but will be deprived of his wealth by a king. So the king problem is strongly indicated. In modern times, we don't have many kings in the world. So it obviously means the government, or it could be your boss, because that person is your king. Deprived of wealth, because the sun in the second house works against income. If provided, of course, as Bhrigu has said, if the sun is afflicted. And even Brihat Jataka says will suffer diseases in the face, whereas Bhrigu clearly says it's only in the mouth. Phaladipika, the person concerned will be devoid of learning, modesty and wealth. He will have defect in his speech. So I think this time this author is writing in such a way that he feels that the sun is afflicted in the horoscope. That's why he hasn't said anything good about it. Saravali, the native, will possess cattle and servants. Maybe here the author must have thought that the sun is dignified. He will suffer from the diseases of the mouth. He'll be bereft of name and fame. He'll acquire wealth from the king by questionable means. Chamatkar Chintamani, the native will be learned. He will possess cows, horses and elephants, all to be translated as vehicles of different varieties. He will incur expenditure on good causes. He will quarrel with members of his family on account of his wife. All his efforts to acquire wealth will go in vain. In just one paragraph, there are so many contradictions. So this is not a contradiction. You will have to read smartly in between the lines. So I have given you a fairly good idea about what the sun in the second house means. That's all, folks, for now. If you have any doubts, please type them out in the comment section, and whenever I find the time, I'll answer them for you. Thank you so much for watching this video.